Welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode 824, being recorded on May 28, 2025. I'm Sebastian Peak.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Brett Van Sternberg.
And I'm Kent Burgess.
Hey, give us money. Go to patreon.com/PCPer and shower us with cash. And just large bills, marked or unmarked, doesn't matter. As long as the bank accepts them. Checks, money orders.
Greater the donation, the greater the chance Jeremy will show half his butt again.
Oh, please, no.
Cashier's checks.
It's the Jeremy's Pants Fund. Gavin Thomas says we need a $5 tier. I don't know why we don't have one. It needs to happen.
Maybe we should have that.
Yeah. All right. Brett, do we have an update on this whole
we do.
money thing? Thank you.
Let's just say that you've recently pulled off a Den of Thieves movie like KBEAR, and you've got a ton of extra cash you're looking to launder. Why not send it to us like Sean M? I mean, some people like Sean M, they've doubled their donation. I mean, when 50 cents goes to $1, that lines
we don't have
our
to
pockets
talk about specific dollar amounts.
That lines our pockets and allows Josh to buy another burger.
Moving seamlessly on to the Food with Josh segment, was there something interesting in Laramie this week?
You know, I forgot to post. There was. It was.
Oh, Josh, I grabbed your end of the long weekend. Grilling.
We can do that one, certainly.
It's definitely not a burger.
Yeah, that's not a burger. But you know what? It's Memorial Day here. It was this Sunday. And so I took the time to clean off the grill. And there was a sale on ribeyes down at the Safeway. And usually their meat's actually really good here. So I got 3 of those. The wife was not feeling well. So it was just me and the boys eating steaks and having some coleslaw, even though, you know, my exposure is not great. Lighting was not superb, but the sear on that ribeye was outstanding. The crust was
the grill pictures
was really nice. It was well seasoned. The potatoes came out very, very nicely as well. They're rosemary, garlic, and sage, and just everything came out super. Super tasty, medium rare, good sear. And you get to that point with ribeye that interstitial fat just gets a little crispy, a little crunchy.
Yeah.
And just bursts with flavor when you take a bite. So that was Memorial Day weekend.
Nice.
And I got to work on the lighting and coloring, but that was just off the cell phone, and there you go.
So, Josh, do you want to talk about NVIDIA making more money than ever before?
Gosh, can we? And not only that, but the interesting thing is they could have made even more if the U.S. government had cooperated with them when it came to the H20 in China.
Oh, right.
So
we need to send more compute power to China. Yes,
exactly.
So NVIDIA can make more money.
Exactly. Yeah, because those shareholders are going to get a dividend.
A penny.
Of, a penny. A penny a share. Yeah, big money for a company that made the last quarter $44.1 billion. And they took a write-down of something like $2.5 billion due to inventory, unsold H20 inventory that was supposed to go to China. And they figured out in the last 2 quarters that if they had been able to sell it all, that was upwards of $8 billion of revenue that they missed out on. But this is still an historic quarter for NVIDIA. As, they're, the charge down of, I think it ended up being something like $4.5 billion for the quarter. It took their margins from above 70% down to about 60%. So they're expecting their margins to jump back up to mid 70s this next quarter. They expect to make about $45 billion next quarter. And the net income GAAP net income, $18.775 billion. So I would say they're doing really, really well. Now, $39 billion of that was the data center, which is kind of interesting because that means they sold something like $3.8 billion worth of video cards and royalties for Switch 2. And that is literally the highest historical amount that they've done for gaming ever. That's probably more than what AMD did for gaming entirely last quarter.
Yeah.
So they sold a lot of cards. People are pissed. Well, at least people were vocal, but people still bought a lot of these cards, and they've talked about how
with NVIDIA, yeah,
it is, yeah, that they sold still a lot of cards, and the ramp with the Blackwell was pretty steep, and they got a lot of them out there. I mean, Q1's usually a pretty weak corner, but I mean, Q1, Q2, what we typically would consider that, is usually weak, but not for NVIDIA. They were selling a lot of 5070s, 5070 Ti's, 5080s, and 5090s, all very, very high margin cards. At the end of that, they were starting to sell the 5060s, but again, releasing Switch 2 and other stuff like automotive, they're all hitting $500 million in the money that they're doing. So the company's doing extremely well, if you didn't notice. And that data center is just sending them to heights unknown. Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, at the height of Intel's holding 90% of the CPU market and doing chipsets and storage and all that, they had a quarterly revenue max of about $22 billion. So half of what NVIDIA made. So there's a reason why they're a $3 trillion company. And this is essentially it. They're just printing money. And they could have printed even more money if some tariffs and some supercomputing laws did not cause them to not sell to China, which really wants their stuff.
You compared to that one record Intel quarter. NVIDIA is selling in a different era with significantly more inflation, and they're charging the earth for the hottest chip in the world. The AI hadn't happened yet when Intel was compute.
$22 billion from Intel was like 2015, 2016.
Yeah, so you would adjust that for modern inflation. That is $40 billion.
No, it's not.
Well, you got to adjust it a little bit further because
28.
No,
but
Josh did neglect
2015 to now is like double.
But it's not now because it's NVIDIA. So you forgot to mention for the future. If you buy Q1 2026 because NVIDIA lives in a different planet.
Yes, they are. They're on the planet
I have to make sure that we mention this.
They're from the planet where somebody other than NVIDIA is going to make money off of AI. Or at least that's what their customers think. But right now, they're all paying $20,000 to $40,000 for AI GPUs that are going to turn them into a forward-thinking, AI-driven company. And, they have nothing to show for it except for, NVIDIA's ever.
Hey, but we're moving to agentic AI. Yes. The software is advancing, and it's utilizing all of the hardware that is out there to the maximum potential. Yes. And we need more hardware.
Right. More and more and more and more and more. Just like when we were all mining and digital currency and the blockchain was the future. We needed more power.
Yeah.
More compute. And now it's, forget about that. Now it's all about AI. We're going to change the world and advance all these different fields with AI. It's going to replace people. It's just one tiny little problem. It's extremely expensive. And only one company makes the chips that everybody wants to buy. They can charge whatever they want.
Power 10?
And only one company makes the chips for the one company that makes the chips.
Right. So really, it's all TSMC that's making all the...
And only one company makes the machines for the one company that makes the chips for the one company that makes...
Are we talking about SML or...
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, there's only one High-NA EUV.
We'll talk about that EUV. Because actually that is not directly linked to TSMC and their future plans. It was Intel who went all in on High-NA.
Yeah. But before we go into that, let me kind of talk to you a little bit about something that was talked about at Dell World, in that they're really pushing for, in your domain, for small, medium, large business, to set up these AIs and these, AI processing things. And at first you're like, how dumb would that be? And then you think of something like, how much am I paying Veeam a year to do my backup stuff? Why can't I just go to this AI and say, hey, can you do a snapshot backup of this server, save it to this, and do that, 3 times a day, and you call the storage after 30 days. And the AI may not do it efficiently, but it probably will do it. So why would I pay Veeam when I can just get AI to start doing stuff that I pay other companies for? Of course, what's the cost of that? Of AI? How much do I, license that a year? I mean, I think about when you ask a sysadmin, it's like, hey, can you go into tapes and recover something from 5 years ago? And you can ask that to do it, and they'll probably do it in a quarter of the time. It's just, there's a lot of interesting things that they're trying to do locally in networks with AI. And this is not just, painting pretty pictures or making a 30-second video that, scares the crap out of you, because it's starting to be really, really eerily human. But yeah, okay, Reed H sounds, he made a good point. It sounds great until the AI hallucinates your backup.
Yeah, the whole AI, and of course it's not AI.
And seriously, this is one of my
machine learning,
concerns.
and one of the things you can
and
do
the other
is you can automate the process of setting up automation, I guess, but you could also just set up automation. You could create scripts and make these things happen on your own with redundancy locally. You don't have to rely on some AI, so-called AI.
Yeah, but you license an AI for $20,000 a year. You file all your sysadmins, and you just
trust it though. Where's the infallible AI that doesn't make mistakes or just invent stuff?
And don't worry, it's definitely not using your backups to train its new models on.
I'm not saying this is a great thing. I'm just saying this is what they're trying to push.
AMD has acquired Enosemi or whatever it is to accelerate co-packaged optics innovation for AI systems, according to this press release from AMD. They just announced this a few hours ago. Well, last week.
So okay, I don't understand why they had to throw AI in there. Because
2025.
Why not? Because it's everybody's got to talk about AI. But no, this is electro-optical stuff that Intel has been doing really, really well. And apparently NVIDIA has also been doing very, very well. I mean, remember Jensen's CES thing where he actually showed off some of these electro-optical type connections. And AMD has to catch up. And so the easiest way to catch up is by another company doing it.
That's what AMD's always done.
Well, that's what Intel's done, but oddly enough,
but
Intel
I mean, back in the day when they needed
resold, Intel resells a new process.
When they needed to be more competitive with Intel, they bought Next Gen.
Yeah,
that became the K6.
Yeah,
they needed to compete in the graphics world, so they bought ATI.
They sure did. That's okay, because ATI bought ArtX, and that saved the company.
Yeah. Was ATI or AMD the one who got rid of their mobile graphics?
AMD got rid of their... No, ATI got rid of the mobile graphics. So Adreno was Radeon Anagram. Backwards. And they sold it off to Qualcomm. And Qualcomm went ahead and, Adreno. Dang it. Darn it. That's So anyway, they're getting into the electro-optical chip interconnect thing with this company because they're far behind what NVIDIA and Intel are doing. And they can't afford
infinity and
to
beyond
be
fabric.
So you know how Microsoft wants to control every aspect of your life, at least the life you interface with your computer.
And why not? They're a trusted entity, and they're good at it.
They could have had
Threat has been replaced.
So much more control over your life and your computing and software experience if they just stayed in the mobile game and did a better job with Windows Phone. But they didn't.
Oof.
And now we're all supposed to buy Copilot enhanced PCs and let them interact with you that way. But to that end, Apple does it. Android does it. Why can't Windows users go through their software updater for all software installed on the PC? They want all app and driver updates to have to go through Windows Update, the unified Windows Update orchestration platform. How do you feel about this?
I had a busy day and I'm depressed, but I still wrote several paragraphs on it. The first thing that I find absolutely hilarious about this is that they're pushing this at enterprise and businesses, which means they're going to be competing with Intune, which is the thing that enterprises migrated to recently, which was supposed to handle all of your software deployment and update needs. And so now they're going to go for this orchestration thing, thanks to Angie Chen. And we all love and trust Windows Update. We've never had a single issue with it. There's no way that this could become a single point of failure where all of a sudden it's throwing a random error code that starts with a 0x8, and there's not a damn thing you can do because it just will not update ever again.
Didn't they just take out almost the entire corporate world about 6 months ago with an update that looked just like that?
Just not going to try and remember that, but yes, this is the thing, that it's really hard to trust them to push their own updates, right? We've all got rings where, the guinea pigs and the canaries get that first set of updates, and if they live in a week, we might start pushing it out to more people.
Oh, I thought those were just consumers.
So MSIX, APPX, or general Windows 32 installers will be accepted, but I guarantee you're going to have to package it in something similar to Intune, or this is Intune for the masses. And this means that you've got to get them to qualify it. You can't just toss it up there. No, you got to upload it, and they're going to qualify it, and then you can use it to vet and push updates. So, this application that I've uploaded to Microsoft's Orchestra now needs an update. So I'm going to push that up there, and I can keep track of it and see how it's been deployed and whether there are any failures or not, which is exactly what a lot of other software management systems do, up to and including the ones coming from the vendor you buy it from. And in theory, you're paying the vendor to be able to support that. So if you get an error on the Microsoft orchestration update that doesn't work, Microsoft will blame it on a third party. And you will have to go back to them and find out what was wrong with the update so you can repackage it and put it up to Microsoft to see if you can download it again, as opposed to just going to the original company you got it from and getting the fix and the support. This is just obnoxious. I can understand how some people will find this very, very easy. It is a one-stop shop, but as I said before, it is also a single point of failure. Patch Tuesday will become an utter and complete CF.
Yeah, Intune's not my favorite.
No, it isn't. But man, I've been living and breathing it 2 years
we have
now.
Hybrid. Yeah, we've got hybrid join for our AD and the remote people, and it's not fun.
You know what isn't fun? Hardware dying prematurely, like AM5 motherboards and Ryzen 9000 processors. ASRock, we've talked about this numerous times in the last few months, have had issues with like the vast majority of Ryzen processor failures have been happening on ASRock boards. And so Brian from Tech Yes City was at Computex and apparently got a chance to chat with ASRock and the motherboard team, and apparently they've gotten to the bottom of it. His own personal Ryzen 9 9950X died in an ASRock 870 Steel Legend motherboard. The motherboard team told him it had to do with EDC and TDC, the electric design current, as well as the thermal design current. It was a problem with power delivery related to precision boost overdrive, so PBO. So
what is this, Intel?
It was supplying too much power, obviously. So yeah, if you have an ASRock motherboard, there may yet be a fix, unless your processor's already dead, in which case, sorry about that. We mentioned this earlier briefly, TSMC, High-NA EUV. They have reiterated that they don't need High-NA EUV for even class-leading process tech, even like 16 angstrom. They're 1.4 nanometer. They said, no, they don't need it. They'll use it eventually, but they don't think they need it right now. And they're, like the number one foundry in the world. A16, A14, nah.
There's a little more to it than that.
Yes, there is.
Not so much that it's smaller. It just requires far fewer passes and a lower exposure time with high-NA. So there's 40 passes needed and 8 times the exposure time for regular EUV. And it's a more complex process to get that litho down. But there's no reason why current EUV stuff can't scale down to that class of process. It just takes longer. And
unless you talk to ASML, in which case they're like, no, you got to buy the new High-NA stuff.
Well, of course they want to sell it because it's it's $1 billion machine. But no, I mean it. If you were to go High-NA EUV, then you still could potentially produce at scale chips cheaper because they spend less time in that high energy process. Well, I'm sorry to say process, but stage that you have to do, a whole wafer full of, litho and the way they scan and the way that they do the flashes. And it's a lot of power. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of heat. And using High-NA, that process goes a lot quicker. I think it uses about the same amount of electricity as well. So scale your throughput better, but you're going to have to offset that with a higher cost for each EUV machine that's High-NA versus just the older EUV. So it depends on how many wafer starts a week that you do and are able to throw through that machine.
Who has actually implemented High-NA EUV at scale?
Intel.
I mean, at scale, like what they're like selling stuff based on it at high volume.
Well, I know they bought like two or three machines. Yeah.
Yeah.
From what I understand, it's expensive to implement and it's problematic because of distortion and other.
Yeah. I think IBM is playing with it because
they're playing with it, but TSMC is making all the chips and they're not touching it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's expensive, and it's still a beta release product. Yeah. But the theory is it's going to be faster.
Because Intel has obviously put a lot into this, a lot of money, and there's been a lot of kind of hype about this. They're excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, they had that whole Twitter thing of, here's the machine making its way from, Denmark? Is that where ASML or Netherlands? I can't remember which.
Yeah, it's the Netherlands, I believe.
Yeah, and then when arriving in Oregon as this huge tractor trailer sized machine. Yeah, it's a significant amount of money, and it probably takes damn near 4 months to calibrate that thing.
Oh yeah.
I had a friend who worked at ASML, and he assembled some of the first machines in Japan, and he spent a significant amount of time there getting it built, getting it working. He's a mechanical engineer that did all optics. So he was at the forefront of getting that thing up and running, the first EUV machines. And he then decided that he wasn't having any more fun at ASML and went off to a different company.
And retired on the money he made on.
No, he wasn't making that much money. I mean, he's making good money, but the stress and the travel and everything of trying to get these multi-billion-dollar machines to work,
and making sure the PBO wasn't set too high.
Yeah.
Josh, do they have to calibrate out the curvature of the Earth due to the length of the machine or across the room, or is we not quite that level yet?
We're not quite that level yet. And plus, they can. Okay, so in a machine like that, gravity is not going to have an effect on either the light or the particles or anything. In fact, so when they actually make the machine, it's straight. So it's not such a huge machine that the ends,
are going to be off by a few nanometers or picometers.
Yeah, so. But it's
the process keeps getting smaller. That's why I asked.
But the weak nuclear force, on the other hand, very annoying.
But you don't want to put it in the middle of the South Atlantic, where gravity is actually wildly fluctuating as compared to the rest of the Earth. So,
didn't they do that in a game? No, never mind.
No, it's true. Right. It's why they don't like to launch rockets over that area, because it's weirdly.
Yeah, Bermuda Triangle, old and busted, but that part is kind of weird.
Next, one of the fun things you get to look at if you go to Computex, experimental future hardware products.
Beefy pump.
We talked about the Asetek patents going off. So, of course, that means there's going to be a lot of designs coming out from various vendors. Noctua showed their first ever all-in-one liquid cooler. And, of course, as Michael at PC World notes, it's brown. I mean, it's black, but it's using the brown and tan fans. There's the Noctua logo on the CPU block pump assembly.
That is a beefy pump.
It does look very good. Apparently, there's going to be a little pump fan from the looks of this. So it's just a prototype stage.
Going Noctua, that means we'll see it in about 7 years.
Yes. It'll be perfect. It'll be perfect.
They say it will be 2026. 7 years. Early 2026. Estimated. But right, that's Noctua time. So we'll see. They have to get the fins just right on that block.
But when they do, that 400-watt TDP CPU will be cooled.
Yes, it will.
Quietly.
Threadrippers, they're still a thing, as we learned last week.
Apparently.
Well, rebranded, but yeah.
Ryzens are all...
The Ryzen is Epic, the Epic is Ryzen, Threadripper, and...
Threadripper is...
Yeah, just never... Threadripper...
It was assimilated.
Yeah. Next, we will talk about Wi-Fi 6 traffic jams. Yes, sadly, every time we all move to a new frequency together, we start to have congestion and problems. Or is this about something else?
No, it is about exactly that. It's about what happens when you go to Computex and try and get a Wi-Fi signal. And you realize that, no, the bandwidth is absolutely saturated. And so in this case, now take it with a grain of salt, because this is done by Cable Labs, who actually do some good tests, but are sort of a think tank run by cable television operators that do want to make sure that they get more of the bandwidth, because there is a bit of spectrum that is still unlicensed, and they want it now. But with that said, they simulated a 12-story residential building with a dozen apartments on each floor and cranked it all up to the 6 gigahertz Wi-Fi band that we are all already abusing, and are seeing latency greater than 10 milliseconds and at least a 2% packet loss on about a third of those connections.
Yeah. Great.
This is not horrific until you're doing a podcast and you drop 2% of your packets and have a greater than 10 millisecond latency, and it starts stuttering, and it is significantly worse than we're doing right now. So this is not going to be horrible for voice calls, but yeah, video calls. For gaming, when your baseline of whatever connection you have is at least 10 milliseconds higher than that, not going to be great. And that doesn't include the microwaves and the random other stuff that is just interfering with your Wi-Fi signal. This is also why a lot of people are constantly complaining about their VPN connection dropping, because they're in a bungalow and the Wi-Fi router is in the garage and they are in the bedroom at the absolute opposite side of the building. And yeah, they've got a bunch of kids and a whole bunch of other people playing with Wi-Fi, and yeah, it's going to become a thing where Wi-Fi becomes higher and higher latency and starts to see packet loss drop because, we're just saturating it.
Realtek thinks that you're just going to use a wire anyway, because they now have a $10 10 gigabit solution. It's a network adapter. It's a little by 4 PCIe from the looks of this.
Yeah.
To me, though, it's not really going to get mass adoption until it's just baked into the board.
Oh,
until
absolutely
everything's
true.
10 gigabit. But this is great because that means they have the chip. They have the solution, and now motherboard vendors can just implement this.
And their reference solution doesn't take up a lot of board real estate, and I'm sure they're going to have to reduce that, to some degree.
Yes. Low
but
power consumption of under 2 watts.
It's very low. We're just, I think we're in the age of kind of like the 2.5 gigabit. It's kind of pretty standard nowadays.
I think we just need to leap. Forget about 2.5. Forget it.
Oh, no, I agree. But we're in the middle of that zone right now. I want to see us leave that behind.
Where is the adoption? Can we just talk about this for a second? If you still, to this day, almost everything is 1 gigabit.
True.
And there's some stuff that'll have like a 2.5 port. But the vast majority of routers in people's homes right now have a 4-port gigabit switch built into them.
Yeah.
What
you can get 2.5 in the house, but the second it goes out,
people are buying gigabit plus Ethernet or internet from their provider, and
it's increasingly common even in rural areas. They're starting to get fiber around here, and they have a 2 gigabit symmetrical tier,
or 1.2,
from a lot of these.
1.4, 1.5 gigabits. Cable is very, very common to be at those speeds with just DOCSIS nowadays.
Well, on the downstream, but yes.
Yeah, I mean, last year I upgraded my entire network to 2.5 gigabit, and it wasn't until, this February, March, where Eero offered one of the first, affordable 10 gigabit, WAN, LAN backplane with the Eero 7 Pro. Everybody else, they often had a 2.5 gigabit WAN input, but going to your wired network, it was only 1 gigabit. So unless you had like heavy wireless traffic all the time that everything else was running on, it's just pointless to have a 2 gigabit connection. Finally, we're starting to get far more affordable routers that will support that. So yeah, I'm chuffed about it.
I mean, fair.
Use the English way of saying excited, but yes.
Think about how long
when it leaves the house.
What?
What is your network when it leaves the house?
2 gigabit.
Okay, so you do have 2 gig.
Yeah, it's fiber. It's 2 up, 2 down.
That's so much better than we can get up here.
Yeah, but think about it. I mean, when we first got affordable gigabit stuff is about 2005, 2006, right?
Yep.
So
and now it's only until like 2024 that you could get a 2.5 gigabit switch that was affordable. Otherwise, they were just stratospheric. That is damn near 20 years of gigabit speeds. And let me tell you, Sebastian was pissed for a long time because frame rating and video editing and things like that and large file transfer, he raged against the Gig E world.
I just went back to SneakerNet. It was faster to use
it's depressing, isn't it?
Gen 2x2. Like you could use an external drive, like this one right here, a little Crucial drive, and it's 20 gigabit. So it's like, why would I deal with traffic to my NAS when I could just do this in a minute and then walk it upstairs? So
the Quantia cards right around that era, Josh, had tried to get this down into the $100, $120 range for some period of time for 10 gig E. But clearly that is just an enthusiast level only, and you are never going to cost reduce that onto a motherboard. But this stands a really good chance about seeing
2 watts
on the boards very, very soon.
What's sad to me about this is I was at a CES almost a decade ago where we talked to the killer networking guys. Mm-hmm. Ryan and I had a meeting with them in the morning, and they were talking about they had this chip, and it was 2.5 gigabit, and it was an easy thing for motherboard vendors to implement. And then, of course, we saw a bunch of motherboards with the killer 2.5 built in after that, but it was a hard sell because it was a few bucks for a motherboard vendor to implement, but they could save a few bucks by not. So most of the boards, even to this day, are gigabit.
I mean, we're going to see this at the high end only at first. We're going to see it at the high end, and it's going to be a $10 premium. Or
what's sad is that was like 8 or 9 years ago. Yeah. And now we are talking about, hey, here's Realtek's prototype board. It's about $10 for a 10 gigabit solution. Where's been the mass adoption of 2.5 since that came down to the $10 range?
It's again switches. Switches.
Yeah, but switches.
Switching
are for elites. Like switches are for the much more technically savvy. The people with their own server closet are buying a switch.
How about switches integrated in routers?
Yes, but how many? Can you name one consumer router right now that you'd recommend to a friend or family member that has all 2.5 all the way across?
All the way?
I don't know any.
Like 2.5 WAN, 2.5.
No, you'll see
switch.
Some of the newer ones have 2.5 WAN and one 2.5 out, but then you're downstream to another switch. The expectation is you're putting in a 2.5 switch after that.
Right. Mm-hmm. When it becomes every router I can buy at a Best Buy or a Target is 2.5, then I've considered that like that's mainstream now. Like my mom ends up with a router that has 2.5 that she'll never even use. It's got to get to that point. And you can. It's so much easier, even on the same cabling, to go to 2.5 as long as you're on a certain level. What is it, 5E technically, or is it 6? You have to have Cat 6.
I think it's 5E.
6A, but 5E can work over shorter
distances.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But it's
like
just
30 meters.
Because it's a few dollars more.
It's relatively far.
It just isn't the case. I could go to Newegg or whatever website right now, and the vast majority of routers, even up to the $300 range, or maybe even more, you get into these expensive mesh networks. The one I have, it's got a 2.5 WAN. Great. And then all the switching built into it is gigabit. And even some more expensive gaming routers, they have like one.
Did you switch over to 2.5 switching, or are you still on 1 gig switching?
I'm for the little bit of wired that I'm even doing, it's PCs with just a gigabit. Like this one, I'm streaming from a gigabit, but I only have a gigabit connection. I only have a gigabit.
Did you ever purchase one of those NIC Giga?
No,
2.5 for under $70.
I have one.
No,
I have one of those, Josh.
I do too, and it works great.
I have more than one. I have 1.4 in, so I'm doing switching, but I also write stuff between services inside the house. So I do 10 gig between a couple of rooms.
I know this segment's running long, and we should move on. But this reminds me of the PCIe standards. Like PCI SIG will send out a press release every so many months. We just ratified a new standard. We're just starting to see some mainstream adoption of Gen 5 for SSDs, for example. Mm-hmm. And The vast majority of people are still going to buy a 4, which is still fairly new. Most people are still on a Gen 3 NVMe. They slowly made the transition from SSDs to NVMe SSDs, and a lot of people invested a lot of money in Gen 3 SSDs. Now we're expected to get Gen 4, and now Gen 5 is out. But don't worry, PCI SIG is already on PCI Express 7. And in a few months, they'll be ratifying 8. So
well, hey, PCI 5.0 in motherboards has been around for 4 years now. And this generation of cards is of graphics cards, the first that embraced 5.0. It was a long time in between the Intel version of 5.0 with the 13th gen, I think, and then the AMD was the 600 series of chipsets. There are PCI 5.0. Yeah, it took forever to get there.
Yes. And for some reason, we're not adopting 2.5, and eventually it looks like we're just going to leapfrog it and go right to 10, which is fine.
I had to double check just to make sure on a question Sebastian asked earlier. The TP-Link Archer BE 19000 that I have has 2 10 gigabit WAN LAN ports and 4 2.5 gigabit ports.
How much did it cost at the time?
I got it on sale. It was like $390. It's actually $351 now.
Not horrible.
Oh. There you go. They do exist.
They do exist.
You know how AMD, they're opportunistic with their marketing and with some of their messaging when they have a graphics card launch and it has a big advantage over something that they think is a weakness for NVIDIA, like VRAM. Frank Azor says the majority of gamers are still playing at 1080p and claims there's still a place for 8 gigabyte GPUs. And that, which is absolutely true. If you're only gaming,
he's not wrong.
At 1080, you don't need more than 8 gigabytes of VRAM.
But the vast majority of people are.
Sebastian, they pull from your favorite data source, the Steam hardware survey, which we all know is the Bible. And
what's crazy is it says 55.27% of people are on 1080p monitors. Just a couple years ago, that was 90%. It's amazing how many people have adopted ultra wide or just 1440 as the minimum.
Yeah, you can get a fast 1440 monitor, 144 to 165 hertz for less than $150 with reasonable quality panels. Not great panels, but reasonable qualities. It's hard not to upgrade.
I have a message for you, enthusiast or so-called enthusiast. If you're actually watching the PC Perspective podcast right now, you're an enthusiast. You're at a higher level than most people. You're better than most people.
Take yourself seriously in this regard.
Get yourself at least a 2560 by 1440 monitor. But guess, you probably already have one. If you're the kind of person who's an enthusiast enough to build your own PC or buy a graphics card, aren't you also on a higher res monitor? I feel like it's the mainstream, as in the less savvy consumers. 1080p. This is.
But
fine.
I use anti-DLSS, so I take my 4K monitor and I down it to 1080p.
Yeah, that would make it look.
Some
really
people
good.
do that.
Downsampling looks really good.
Or you could get a 27-inch 4K monitor and just turn off all anti-aliasing because the pixel density is so tight. Everything's sharp.
That's fair.
Kent, I'm just running Windows at 200% now. It's simple that way.
I'm loving these comments about older people can't see the higher resolution, which is true. I just feel like I just want the screen real estate. I don't even care about the retina effect or because as much improved as scaling has become with Windows, it's really good now. It's still not perfect. There's still applications where the items are too small. Most games, that isn't an issue at all. They have the higher DPI
compensation
interfaces and stuff. Yeah. So, but still, it's just at this point they're so cheap. There are really, really good panels out there, and 1080, as you can see from the Steam hardware survey results, when we look at those, it went from 90 to 80, and now it's all the way down to about 50% of people. So yeah. That's why Frank Azor is correct.
It's interesting that it's basically AMD's stance is 8 GB is fine.
Yeah, we had 8 GB with the 480 and the 580 10 years ago. And
heck, with the 290. The 290X was 8 gigs. Wasn't it? Or no, the 3. Was it the 380X had 8 gigs. The 290 maxed out at 4. So yeah, the refresh when it went to the 300 series, it went to 8. It was the first big 8 gig.
I actually have one of these reference cards laying around here somewhere.
Sebastian, what do you say to the person who has the 8 GB card but the high resolution display? Oh no, what have you done?
Well, then you don't buy an 8 GB card.
You run at lower quality levels.
Josh
They've mismanaged their allocation of funds.
8 gigabytes. And this was released when? 2015. 10 years ago. Almost to the day. Not quite, like 3 weeks from now. But 10 years ago, they were releasing graphics cards with 8 gigs. And here we are. It's like, oh, well, but 1080p. Look at the Steam hardware survey. It's 55%. If they didn't have to do this to hit a price point, they wouldn't. They'd be gloating over the fact that every one of their graphics cards has 16 gigs of VRAM.
Yes.
Or more. Because, they're mid. It's only the mid-range and the low-end stuff. It wasn't that long ago that they had the 4 GB card, or like the 6500, and we're trying to excuse that. And that was during COVID, of course, and you couldn't buy a graphics card.
So if you can find an Intel B580 with 12 gigs for $300, you should buy one.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's pause here for a word from our podcast sponsor.
The threats facing your network and consequently your private data are becoming increasingly sophisticated and puts your business operations at risk. Help spot these threats before they escalate into a security incident with NordLayer. Stop malware, ransomware, and phishing attacks from reaching your endpoints with NordLayer's deep packet inspection, download protections, and DNS filtering. NordLayer helps identify, analyze, and prevent risks emanating from both external and even internal sources because you never know what might be on an untrusted USB drive or a web-based downloaded software installer. NordLayer is offering a business-oriented, toggle-ready solution with no additional hardware that can connect and protect users by combining VPN, access controls, and threat protection into one single easy-to-use platform. Built on the standards of NordVPN and Zero Trust, NordLayer works across all platforms, Windows, macOS, iOS, Android, and Linux, to grant only the right people access to the correct resources. Deployable in minutes with no hardware or complex configurations, NordLayer scales easily with your team and infrastructure to secure your networking and spot threats before they escalate with dark web monitoring and data breach prevention. NordLayer can even help your business meet regulations through granular access controls, encryption in transit, mobile or desktop device level security, and VPN usage monitoring. Try NordLayer risk-free for 14 days with up to 22% off a yearly plan, plus take an additional 10% off with our code PCPer-10 at NordLayer.com/PCPer. That's NordLayer.com/PCPer. Use code PCPer-10 for an additional 10% off.
Welcome to Insecurity Corner, your weekly reason to drink.
Our first story, TikTok videos now push info stealer malware in click fix attacks. So is this like somehow actively watching the video will infect your machine the way that it infects your mind?
How do you tell the difference?
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's a TikTok video. It's going to infect you with something.
That's funny, but true. Whether it's mental or it's actually on your whatever device you're watching it with.
Hepatitis, something. Something will happen to you if you watch TikTok. So Trend Micro.
Go on, Brad. That's all I was going to do is make fun of this because, sorry.
Oh, that was it? Oh, they're enticing people to like click through to certain ads based upon unlock Windows or activate Microsoft Office or get premium features of Spotify. Click here and install this.
Okay. So it's social engineering.
So it is.
So how do you tell the difference between that and TikTok?
Okay, we're back.
There is no difference.
Full circle.
TikTok is literally the video equivalent of malware.
Yes. So here's the one cool trick for getting free Office, basically.
How do I get Office for free? Oh, well, you just click here. Really?
Yeah. And then we'll walk you through it. You type this in. So open up PowerShell, type this in.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll show you the video on how to do it.
Exactly. So, I mean, would spam be so prevalent if it didn't work occasionally? I'm just using it as a offset example to say people fall
I'm just thinking the percentage of successes on TikTok is going to be significantly higher than it will off
I think
of
you're
phishing.
right. I think this is higher. And am I Tom Servo or am I Crow? What am I?
I don't know. I think you're Tom Servo.
Gypsy.
You're Tom Servo.
I get to be Tom Servo.
I need overlays, but yes, you're Tom Servo because Jeremy is absolutely Crow.
Yes.
That's his spirit animal.
I can be Tom Servo.
Okay.
Anyway, the point is that people fall for this, and in unfortunately high numbers, as Jeremy was pointing out.
Well, of the intelligentsia that watches TikTok, yes, they fall for it in high numbers.
Aren't these the ones that eat Tide Pods for fun?
Yeah, it's the same people, but the age range is a little different, probably. It just boils down to stop infecting yourself. Stop infecting yourself.
It's your behavior that's the problem, huh?
Yeah,
what?
That is true.
But Office free.
I gotta get Office free. Yeah,
I'm gonna get it for my dad. My dad
so
will like
you're
Office
basically
free for Father's Day.
You're basically dialing in a remote port infection, and you're hosting malware, and you're becoming part of a botnet.
Wait, can you be a botnet from a phone? Because
just like in real life,
know what a computer is.
You can.
Yes, you can. Yes.
Okay. My battery life is really bad.
There are people who literally complain, why is my phone so hot and why is my battery life so bad?
Oh, yeah. Because you're Bitcoin or you're mining for somebody else every day, all day.
I mean, it's the old story of how do you even see your browser between all the web bars that you've got installed?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. People used to get really mad. I would see that and say, "Oh, I took care of that for you." Like, where's this? Where's this? Where's this? Where's my Google bar and my, the 18 other ones? The Yahoo. Where's my Yahoo bar and my?
Mm-hmm.
What was that little purple?
Did you ever see the server is down? The server is down.
Guy.
Not Grimace. Yeah, it was.
No, it's Web Dude. Sales guy versus Web Dude. Sales guy versus Web Dude. Go look that up. If you guys have not seen this, go look it up, especially for the ending where he has to
Bonzi Buddy. That's the one, Greg. Thank you.
Oh, Bonzi Buddy. Oh, bad word. I forgot about that one.
Oh.
Yeah, when all of their toolbars were 9 deep and you only had this much it's just space to look at what are you viewing on the internet.
And that's back when the number one screen resolution wasn't 1080. It was 1024 by 768. Yeah. You had 300 pixels of height to look at AOL with. All right. From Bleeping Computer, botnet hacks 9,000 plus Asus routers to add persistent SSH backdoor.
This one will depress Josh.
Yeah.
No, I have an Asus router.
Uh-oh.
And this is
we don't have Asus routers to work. We don't have them.
But do you have Cisco, V-Link, or Linksys? Because guess what? The headline lies.
Yeah, this threat actor has
none of those. None of those at my work. None of those so I'm not depressed yet.
It's 100% Nick Giga, isn't it?
No,
it's
enterprise
level ones.
Oh, okay.
MikroTik.
Oh, those are okay, but these aren't necessarily enterprise level, although they sort of bleed over.
No, they're
how they're being used. So yeah, they're generally somewhat semi-professional routers, but this particular article calls out the Asus ones, the RT-AC 3100, 3200, and AX55 models, relatively common as far as I know, ones that have been out there. And there's a small number of them that have been breached in this way, which is using a sort of remote management portal to put in a persistent connection that allows the threat actors to get back in at any point. The scary thing is they're not using the network yet. So they've detected the fact that they've taken over about 9,000 of these devices so far worldwide, but there's nothing that's actually happening with them. Just a few little kind of callbacks and a couple little tests and things. So it looks like they're beginning to build themselves out a network.
Yeah. Exactly.
Here's the
two scary things.
Yes, two scary things.
Upgrade
the first one
your
is
firmware.
No,
not going to fix it. You've been infected. You are screwed.
Yeah,
that's
bad. Basically, you have to
wipe the firmware. Nope.
I believe that they say if you flatline it and completely do a total reset, that should
throw it in a fire. That might take care of it.
Yeah,
that should unpack a new image, and then destroy it. That should do it. But after you do that, you do need to upgrade the firmware and remove WLAN SSH access, which is, I believe, on by default in some cases. So
it shouldn't be, but
yeah. Anyway, there's a malicious actors going after these routers. You might want to.
But if you follow the link, there are 4. Yeah, like Brett says, they're just testing right now. And don't worry, it's going to spread like smallpox. But they're testing right now. There are 4 IPs you can block on the router if you are running a model that you even think might be infectable. In fact, you could just block these IPs because there's no reason you should go there. Just throw them on the blacklist.
Yep. And, don't buy these in the used market.
That's what it sounds like. Buy from first-party sellers like ships sold by Amazon or...
Only mine Bitcoin by a little old lady on Sundays.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Buy that GPU.
All right. Shall we move on to gaming quick hits? There were really only 2 stories on the list for Insecurity Corner this week.
Felt like a big show, so
which is it's good. I like it because we're an hour into the recording session already.
It's filling.
Yes. Warhammer Skulls 2025 as we begin gaming quick hits. It features new releases and updates to some classics, writes Jeremy Hellstrom at PCPer.com.
Lies. It's all lies. But yes. For instance, did you ever expect them to reboot Warhammer 40k Dawn of War? Because yes, the definitive edition is coming to be playable on 4K displays with, updated camera, and they ported it and the original version of Space Marine to 64 bits. Because yes, that's how old we are. Those were originally 32-bit executables. And now if you want to mod them, well, they need to be 464-bit. So they're going to do a re-release of Warhammer 40k Dawn of War, and which I believe is the 3rd release of the original Space Marine, which again, you have to buy. Space Marine 2 is getting an update. Rogue Trader, which I absolutely love, but is doing a bit of dirty pool. So next month, we will get the 2nd DLC from the season pass we bought over a year ago. They're going to have 2 more DLCs, and they're saying, hey, spend some money on the 2nd season pass. So hopefully that the 3rd and 4th DLC will drop before like 2030-ish. Yes, I'm tossing shade, but I do love the game, and Owlcat, you need to freaking up your game here. Because you're also releasing a 2nd CRPG called Dark Heresy, where you get to try and figure out the whole Tyrant Star, and from the sounds of it, the beginning of the Nocturnus Eterna. So that should be amusing. Again, it's going to be a very grim, dark role-playing game with a thing where choices actually do sort of matter and will totally screw you over or your party. It is a thing. They're not afraid to do that. Along with that is Mechanicus 2 is coming out. If you played the first one, after it was rebalanced, it went from, okay, this is not very hard in the first battle to, okay, a couple of battles are hard, and then it becomes absolutely ridiculous and stupidly easy, kind of amusing. But Mechanicus 2, they're bringing back the Space Dwarves. They got retconned like a decade ago. there were no space dwarves in Warhammer 40k anymore. They were gone, too powerful, and we hate the stunties. Personally, I love them. I mean, hey, you're building a spaceship out of a giant meteor, and people want to ram you. It's hilarious. So yeah, the League of Voltan is back for Mechanicus 2. This should be interesting to see because Necrons, also a little overpowered depending on how they are. Along with that is Bolt Gun 2, a free Typing of the Dead Bolt Gun 2 you can play now, Blood Bowl 3, Speed Freaks, the orc racing game. If you played the alpha, apparently you're going to get the full game for free. Otherwise, it's coming out very quickly for about, I think it was $18 or $19, so not a huge investment. But one of the most hilarious things I saw was Secret Lab have got both a metal sit-to-stand desk and a gaming chair. Both fully Warhammer 40k branded. You can get the entire galaxy on the table, and the chair is Space Smurf with a Purity Sealer 3 attached to him. I am assuming that this will be very cheap and fully licensed by Game Workshop, and not require assembly or painting. Inside joke for model collectors.
I got like 1 word out of 10. It's like Hizzy got the bebop from Debo, who was down low on the hip hop.
Is that an airplane reference?
Maybe.
No.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
But I would like to slap them.
But they've all been canceled because of their behavior online.
That's just Twitch. Right, they can go someplace else.
All right. Next gaming quick hit story that will probably be less Warhammer themed. SteamOS now officially supports a second handheld Lenovo Legion Go S, which will start shipping in the past. Actually, this is an older article, so May 25 it started shipping. And official SteamOS support.
Well, it joins the ROG Ally.
Yeah,
Ally.
The Ally.
And the Legion. This is the Lenovo
I didn't think the
Legion.
Ally had official SteamOS support.
I thought it did. I know this is essentially the third. There's the Steam Deck, of course, and then I thought it was the Ally, and then of course now we have the Lenovo.
Okay, yeah, it's the Legion Go S is the only third-party handheld to have official support. It says here at Engadget. The patch notes for the recent update note that there is now, quote, improved support for other AMD-powered handhelds like the ROG Ally and original Legion Go. So at some point, and it's not official, but it'd be nice if ROG Ally owners could update, because really the only problem with that, and I've used one, is Windows 11. It's not ideal because the Ally has a 1080p display. It's already kind of struggling to play most games at that resolution. I don't know how SteamOS does with resolution scaling, but it has an advantage.
It's going to have to do better because it's spreading.
Oh,
to a variety
another
of
story.
things.
Another story right below that. What is that?
Hold on.
Could that be the real story here?
So related, which should have been the first story, at Ars Technica, Steam OS 3.7 brings Valve's gaming OS to other handhelds. So what we were just talking about. So this was the update.
And generic.
AMD only for now. There was a different Lenovo Legion that was Intel powered. So it's the new one that's AMD powered that's fully compliant. You have to have these things: AMD hardware and an NVMe SSD.
Isn't it interesting that MSI
generic
redesigned their handheld to go from Intel to AMD silicon?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they are smart. They know what's up, and
they know who's buttering which side of your toast.
Gamers don't need Windows. Gamers just need games. And open source software will save us all.
As it already has.
This is what we've been talking about for weeks. We've mentioned this, that it's coming, it's going to happen. They're going to begin to proliferate onto desktop type hardware. And here it is, the first inclination that this is exactly where they're heading. And boy, I hope it does. I hope they really embrace this and make it official.
Meanwhile, Microsoft's like, and then we're also going to force you to use our app store to update all the software in your computer too. And you need a Windows account. And Copilot will be mandatory. And
they're doing everything they can to make it so attractive, which is
like,
completely.
I can run SteamOS on this same hardware and
just
never look back.
Play my games.
Yeah. Interesting.
Oh, but you're going to miss out on doing your spreadsheet work. I can do that on my phone. Thank you.
That's painful.
Half-Life 3 LM.
It is.
If only they made dedicated hardware just for gaming. Like it would not run Windows, it would run some kind of Linux or something, and it would be AMD powered, and you could just use a controller with your TV. And
what do you think they would call such a thing? What would they call that?
I don't know. A TV
TV
games.
TV.
Television games. Can't play Fortnite on Linux, that's right, because of easy anti-cheat. But Epic was supposedly working on a version of that.
We talked about this
on
what's
SteamOS.
Fortnite?
The number 3 game in the world.
What's a computer?
Steambox. That's right. That's the word I was fishing for. PS5. But anyway.
Yes. Let's talk about Fanatical, who's having their May Madness sale, possibly while you are listening to this. I don't know if it'll be over.
Yes, it actually goes on for a little while, and it's got some impressive deals.
It is madness. Yeah, scroll down. There's like some really good stuff on this. Not a huge discount on popular new games, but a slight discount.
10, 12% I'm seeing, up to 20%.
But if you're looking for some of the older games or the less popular games, they're 90-some% off.
Yeah, steep discounts. Wukong.
Ooh, Starfield.
There's a couple of like
Starfield Premium Edition, just $56.99.
There's a couple of build your own bundle. There's like the build your own Bethesda bundle in here, build your own Monster Hunter bundle, and there's pages of this. It just is
just on
fairly
and on.
Impressive.
Warhammer. What's this Warhammer, Jeremy? Want to talk about that for a few minutes?
Well, it's the Skulls Week.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's a thing right now.
They're pushing Frostpunk 2 for $22. Elden Ring for $35.
Yeah. I still haven't played Elden Ring.
I still don't even own it. So
I've never done Dark Souls. So
the definitive edition of the Walking Dead Telltale's games edition was like $12.
Yeah, they've got franchise frenzies on for like Tomb Raider, Fallout, Skyrim, Civ. Yeah, they've got some really ridiculous deals if you're not looking for the latest and greatest. If you're looking for the latest and greatest, they're still good deals,
Jeremy,
but they're not insane. Okay.
Did you ever play Stray, Jeremy?
Yes.
With the cat, right?
Yeah, I did. And it bugged at the very end. You and your robot friend do this thing. And, oh no, I won't really spoil it, but you and your robot friend are supposed to do this thing, and then you get an ending. And me and my robot friend did the thing, and my cat just had to lay down and sort of wait until it died because the thing that was supposed to happen never happened.
Ooh.
And it was incredibly sad, and so I reloaded it and tried it again because I'm thinking, there's no way in hell this is how they ended the damn game. And I was right. No, that time it didn't bug. But yes, the very first time, the only thing I could do was paw at some stuff and then lie down and wait to die.
Oh.
Other than that, it was a very good game.
Let's move to the reviews portion of this week's podcast, where Kent took a look at not one, but two different IEMs under $25 each.
Yes.
Look at him in this beautiful photograph. if you're watching the podcast. Otherwise, you can follow along at PCPer.com.
Per the request of Mir on our Discord, I got a set of the Moondrop Chew 2s, which is the small black set on the right in that photo. They retail, I think, at $23.99. And I liked them. They were nice. They're incredibly small. Very comfortable to wear. I've been looking for a set of IEMs that I could actually sleep. They're small enough to sleep in, and I'm a side sleeper. Unfortunately, as small as these were, they're a little thick for that, so I still couldn't wear them for sleep, but they sound nice. They've got a decent quality wire with them, a small little case, 3 sets of tips, none of which fit me very well, but I have my own tip that I've found that fits me very well, that I tested both of these pairs with.
So are you saying that you just insert just the tip?
No.
Well, he has his own personal tip, Josh.
I do have my own personal tip, yes. It's just a spin fit.
Okay. That's more than I needed to know. But
yeah. So, and they're quite good. They have a nice smooth presentation. Vocals are a little recessed on them. They're very warm. They don't have a lot of top end really. I mean, the treble's there, but it's kind of pulled back enough so that they'll never be fatiguing. It kind of reminds me a little bit of a Sennheiser sound signature, just that pleasant, not offensive to anybody sound. Anybody could pick up a pair of these and put them on and go, yeah, this sounds good. They're a single dynamic 10 millimeter driver, really well built, all metal construction. Moondrop has got a good reputation in the industry for as far as Chi-Fi companies go. They've got a very good reputation. They've got a wide range of products. You know, they show you the sound signature right there on the box. You can see it has that
scooped mid-range.
Yeah.
And it rolls off really pretty going severely at like 6 kilohertz almost. Like it drops down.
Wow, that's early.
Yeah, and then there's a little bit of a spike at 10K, but yeah.
Yeah, but how much human voice goes beyond 6?
It doesn't, but yeah,
it doesn't.
Overall.
This is probably what people want to hear. A lot of people EQ like this to some degree anyway.
Yeah. That's what they're. This sort of the Harman curve is what they're calling it now. They have good bass. It's not super tight bass and it's not super powerful bass, but there is definitely bass there. Like I said, they're a nice, pleasant sound. They're really well made and they're really cheap. They've got a good cable with them. Not a great cable, but you could probably buy a cable of that quality for the same price as the cable with the headphones. So, yeah, they were really nice. But then I saw this other set from KBEAR, not affiliated with myself, but KBEAR.
Really? This isn't your company? Come on.
Not my company.
Oh, okay.
$22.99. And actually, you can find them for even less now after I wrote all of this. They don't come with a case. The wire is fair. It's not quite as nice of a wire. They're not as well made. It's all plastic construction with the exception of that aluminum plate on the very outside. They're a larger set, but they are a 10 millimeter dynamic and a single balanced armature. And the balanced armature is positioned right sort of in the nozzle. And, as much as I like the Chew 2, these are just outright amazing for the price. I'm outright amazing. Before I had to switch things around here with the audio, that's what I was wearing. And those are what I've been listening to pretty much since I got them. even a lot of times over some more expensive IEMs that I have. And they're not quite as resolving as the higher end IEMs I have, but they have such a great sound signature. They're just enjoyable to listen to. They've got really strong, impactful, and tight bass that comes from that single dynamic driver. And the trebles are just absolutely what I feel like almost perfect. The treble is there and it's strong, but it never seems to cross over to that sibilant or fatiguing sound. Mm-hmm. You know, you can hear cymbals, you can hear piccolo, you can hear your high instruments, but it doesn't get to that painful stage. It's really fantastic. The vocals, like the Chew, are a little bit recessed. They're not forward, and that's really the only shortcoming they have over the Pula PA02s that I have that are my more expensive set. Those are very vocal forward. The vocals are sort of recessed, but musically, these are just wonderful. Absolutely just wonderful. You can get them for, depending on the vendor you find selling them on Amazon, you can get them for $22.99, $20.99. I've seen some for $17. For a few days last week, I saw them where the included cable actually had a USB-C on it, so it had a built-in DAC on the cable with a microphone on the cable at $13. And my best friend, I was like, you have to order these. And he did. And he loves them. They're just astounding at this price. Both sets are fantastic. But, you know, for my preference, I just throughout the whole review, you know, I listened to the Chews before. I got the flash, the KBEAR flash, listened to those. Listen to them back to back, comparing them, listen to them on 5 different amplifiers. And just once I got past my analysis of them, you know, every time I wanted to listen to music, I just found myself picking these up. And they have been my go-to.
Prices.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
No, that reminds me of the old Monoprice ones. Because Monoprice used to sell about that same price, and they were lovely balanced on the bass. Like, it never got, as you said, sibilant, which is the perfect way to describe it when the highs get a little bit toasty. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they were a little bit, the lyrics were a little bit far back. They weren't present in the room. They were sort of next door. But I love them because they were dirt cheap, and if they died, I didn't care. Yeah. So that is very interesting.
They're frankly, to my ears and to the other people I have around me who I've had listened to them to say, am I going crazy or are these great? And people will listen to them and they're just like, these are amazing, and they're $20. It's
they don't
crazy.
They don't cost any less to produce. It's just they don't have the name and the marketing behind them, so they don't have the 1,000% markup of other audiophile gear.
Am I allowed to like that?
Like that's what that's what I said in the article is, you know, don't say it too loud that you can get really good audio equipment for cheap, because audiophiles will come find you.
But will you use the same tips?
Yes, they do.
You should lick the tips to do easier insertion into the ear canal.
No.
So and on that subject, so if you do get a pair of these, the KBEARs, and you don't have a tip that you've already found that you like, use the white tips that come with them. I actually found a set of those.
You can use any color tip that you want. Okay, it doesn't have to be white.
I'm trying to be serious. I am.
I appreciate
that. My microphone stopped.
So
I appreciate that.
Look at the pictures. Look at the pictures.
You said a difficult evening.
So yeah, the gosh, I don't even want to say it now. The white tips have a wider bore in them, and the IEM reacts well to the wider bore.
It's weird how much something like that affects sound. Like even just changing out the pads on your like Grado headphones changes the bass response. It changes the prominence of the treble.
Whoa! Grado? No, we're well beyond the $25 mark here.
Yeah,
those are made in the USA.
But I really like them a lot. Two of my coworkers have now ordered a pair of them. They're just at that price. Buy a pair. If you don't like them, give them to somebody or return them.
Amazon, they'll take them back.
Yeah,
that
sounds
cheap.
Awesome. Yeah,
which is and the funny thing is, if it weren't for those, I would have praised the Chew 2 a lot. They are very good. At that price, they're really incredible. But for my taste, the KBEAR Flash, they're just
they're more
better
like critical listening IEMs,
yeah,
right?
No, they're
because the
more
Chew 2 you're describing
listening.
that laid back sound with not a lot of treble, very warm.
Yeah,
some people like that.
Yep.
Get them both.
You can't talk keyboard, but you can talk in your headphones.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Kent. And you can go to PCPer.com, read the full review, all of his extensive thoughts about these IEMs. And I put links to both of them. So whatever the current going price on Amazon, it's about $20 for each pair. They fluctuate, but they're so cheap.
Yep.
You know
that's it. That's the perfect description, Brett. The Moondrop Chew 2s are creamy, and the KBEAR Flashes are Thock. There we go.
There you go. There you go.
There we go.
Yes.
Little did I know.
All right. Let's move to picks of the week. Josh, please get us started.
Me. So, I like motherboards. They're the first things I ever started reviewing. It's sad because I haven't reviewed one in a while, but it's not my fault. I've tried. Just things have just constantly fallen through. And sampling is not like what it used to be. But anyway, MSI, they've got a newer 870E based chipset out with this product, the Mag 870E Tomahawk. Now, the Tomahawk has kind of been their low end of the high end market. And this follows suit. Yeah. So it has an interesting coloring with the lime green and the black. It's very simple. It's got a lot of expandability, plenty of M.2 space, really robust power delivery, good cooling, all the things you want. Wi-Fi 7, Ethernet 2.5G. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Yeah, and plus you can provide more power to the bottom of the board, to the slots, with the included 8-pin that you can then further attach. So it's a neat looking board. It's not the highest end. It probably doesn't have great audio. I mean, look at that. It doesn't have 5.1 or 7.1 or whatever. It's just in, out, spiff. But it's got Wi-Fi 7. And it's got all your USB-C, including the 40 gigabit. Easy CMOS reset and BIOS reset. So yeah, it's a nice board for not a horrible price. It's not as inexpensive as the Gigabyte Aorus Wi-Fi 7, but it's got it all and a little bit tighter design. So I think that's an interesting motherboard that you should look at picking up.
As long as you can do the Dolby decode or decoding on either the optical or the headphone or the audio out, it's probably fine. You can outboard that.
Or you can just get a sound card for those last 2 slots that nobody ever uses.
Yeah, true. There you go. Give you an excuse to use one of the slots.
Like a Turtle Beach?
I'm noticing a lot of the new boards, especially the 870, maybe even the 650s for the AM5s, because I'm looking at them recently, only do include the in-out and optical.
It's a trend. Yeah, a lot of boards
you know what?
that now.
I was wrong, and our chat corrected me. It's a 5 gigabit NIC on board.
How interesting is that? Because there is one vendor that was just talking about putting out 2 versions of a 5G switch, relatively inexpensive 5G switch.
So, Josh, is that the kind of board that you would insert your tip into, your personal tip?
Well, I would insert a 5070 Ti into that, and let me tell you, I probably prize that more than many other things about me.
Well,
just make
because
sure
of its high
you
cost.
watch your PBO settings.
Yeah,
exactly.
High cost.
Run it through your Asus Wi-Fi router, of course.
Yes. Jeremy, do you have a pick of the week?
Well, I mean, since they won't hire me to pilot subs for billionaires, my console controller has not been used very much until Epic Games. And if you're watching this live, you can grab it if you haven't. If you're watching this recorded, you should have been watching this live. Deliver at all costs is a stupid physics-based driving game like the original GTA, the top-down one, where you just drive around and do ridiculous things. There is a plot. You can pretty much skip most of the story. It's not great, but still amusing. I just like the whole idea of driving around a whole bunch of things and smashing it to bits. And
Jeremy, I love this idea.
Physics stuff.
I love this idea already.
It is hilarious.
It's like Postal, but truly delivery service.
And very much in the style of Postal in the original GTA. And Crazy Taxi, there's a bunch of the old silly games where you're not supposed to take it seriously. You're just supposed to sit down, have a little bit of fun. And, okay, I got to go do something else. I'll just quit, and I'll come back. And it doesn't matter. You didn't lose 4 hours worth of effort. It's just fun. And it's free. So if you've accepted Epic onto your machine, just grab it, because it's free.
I'm getting a Neil Stephenson Snow Crash Cosa Nostra pizza vibe off of this.
Yeah, but the sky isn't the color of static. Apart from that, yeah. It is amusing as hell. Give it a shot. I think for regular sale it's like $18 or $19, but free is better.
Nice. Brett, your pick this week.
I found the standing desks to be relatively useful in being able to adjust to your exact either sitting or occasionally standing when you want to stretch your legs. So they're kind of expensive, and the decent ones that we've reviewed a few times from FlexiSpot, relatively expensive sometimes. So I can understand why everybody doesn't rush right out and buy one. Here's a great opportunity. FlexiSpot is still holding on to their Memorial weekend sale, but they're just selling the powered legs, and they've got a couple versions of that. They've got the E5 Lite and the E2 Lite, which allow you to just get the powered frame. The E5 has 2 motors. The E2 has a single motor. The E2 is good for about 180 pounds. The E5 is good for about 250 or so. So decorate the top of this with whatever you've got, an old door, or go down to IKEA.
They sell tops,
They do also. Of course. Yeah, but
sale.
it raises the price. It raises the price significantly in some cases.
That much?
Well, that one is very, very inexpensive. That must be significantly on sale. But the bamboo
would this
really a nice top.
double as the car lift that was recommended?
will not actually double as the
if you go chipboard, forget about the solid wood stuff.
What if you got like 5 or 5 of them?
If you go IKEA style,
this is a 42-inch by 24, so not a very big desk. If you're looking for at least that 48-inch desk. But anyway, the point is that the legs kind of collapse and expand to accommodate a larger top.
Yes,
but a lot of times, this is we just start with the motorized legs and then get a surface for it. And
I like your door idea. That's great.
The door idea, yeah.
Take the door off of your room and use it as a desk for free.
When I was young, my dad actually did that. When I was young, my dad built a desk into the corner of my room with a door.
What do you use for bricks?
A true story. There weren't bricks, but he did use some leftover leg from some dining room.
It wasn't two chairs, and it was just across the backs of the 2 chairs.
No, but it was a really, obviously, very
folding card table
sizable.
That someone broke. So yeah,
sizable desk. It was a great desk when I was growing up, but that's where I got the door.
No, and to be fair, I use a FlexiSpot desk here, and the legs
I have one.
Are solid.
Yeah, super legs. The dual motor one is probably a little bit nicer than the single motor one.
Plus, if you get the dual motor one, you can ride your desk up and down.
Oh, absolutely. Single motor, I think.
That's what you want.
How fast? Absolutely do that.
Not fast.
Not fast, but steady.
So, like,
okay. Josh.
Almost that fast.
He's doing it.
He's actually very slowly moving.
Yes, almost that fast.
He's like an hour hand.
Or
Kent, do you have a pick?
I do have a pick. It's something that not everyone will find handy, but a lot of people will. I've been watching a lot of wristwatch repair videos on YouTube just because. And one of the things that most of them use is this substance called Rodico. They use it to pick up small things. They use it to clean parts. They use it to clean up grease. And so I got a little piece of it. It's $9. I actually thought that it might be good for actually cleaning the filters at the tips of IEMs.
Oh,
and it actually is good for that.
More tip talk.
It's also really good for like attaching to a stick and picking up a small piece of something that you've dropped somewhere you can't reach. It looks sort of like blue tack, but it's not. It's not quite as sticky, but it's much, and it's also got a stronger bond to itself. But it's still sticky enough to like pull dust off of something small. It was just, I've actually used the heck out of it since I got it. I dropped a screw in a tower that I couldn't get to anyway else, and a magnet was just getting stuck to the case. So I took like a chopstick and put a little piece of the Rodico on the end of it and pulled it right out. So
automotive detailing, would it work for that? Like getting dust out of the cracks of things and the dash and stuff?
It's a very small piece. It's
okay.
But it probably would work for that.
You want a cleaning gel, as somebody in YouTube chat said.
Yeah, you want that or the stupid squishy thing.
Yeah, the stupid squishy
thing. That makes kind of sense.
Putty?
No,
sure,
it comes
why
in
not?
a canister. It comes in a canister.
It's so actually this is the box. And
that's a decent size for getting stuff.
So it's like an old elementary eraser.
But yeah, I looked at it and I was like, it's sort of like an old art eraser, but if you feel it, it's a little different. It's like it's got a stronger molecular bond to itself than silly putty or blue tack or like the old clay erasers. But it's still sticky enough to, clean things, and it's pretty cool stuff. And I'm glad I got it because it's actually the best nozzle cleaner for IEMs I've ever used. And if you've ever had IEMs, if you've ever had IEMs,
do you clean the earwax out of your tips?
Please don't
with that.
Please don't show us. Please don't show us.
No, let's yeah. Nope. There's a reason I don't.
There's a little screen filter,
and it's a horror show, so I won't do it.
That's what that is. That's also called an in-ear petri dish.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I have a pick this week, and it's going to bed because it's 12:11 a.m. and
we have gone past time.
So thank you for listening, watching podcast, and we will see you all again next week. We won't see you. You'll see us. We'll pretend we can see you. He's rage quitting the podcast.
The nicest guy we know. He's throwing microphones on the ground.
You did.
Are you happy now, Josh? Are you happy now?
Oh my gosh. Oh, Josh, look what you made him do.